What is up, you guys? I don't know what's going on quite right now. I'm feeling like there's like a graduation situation, but I wanted to bring awareness to this Blackout Tuesday situation. As I said on my Instagram, I feel like the last thing we need to do in this moment in time is be silent with so many social injustices happening around the country. So I feel like in solidarity with our people that are on the front lines, we need to use our voices to be heard in this time of need, because we've been silenced enough, and it's when our voices are in unison that things happen. So right now, the best thing that you can do is post Black-owned businesses and get those dollars funneled to where they need to be in order to help our people. So you want to hit them where it hurts, and that's in their pockets. So you spend money in Black-owned businesses, which actually helps on a local scale. So that in turn helps your community. If you really, really, really want to help your brothers and sisters out, donate to worthy causes. And I will put them on my Instagram that is linked to my YouTube. We have a lot more spending power than people even realize, and they get a lot of money from us. We spend like crazy. So I just want to ask you guys to not spend your money in big corporations and help the rich get richer. Consider spending your money in Black-owned businesses and help your local economy and small businesses. Sending covering from the ancestors to everybody that's out there marching right now. We have people that are pretending to care about what's going on and starting a lot of rioting. I mean, we were peacefully protesting.
And they're hijacking the whole movement. They're hijacking it for their own means, and they're turning it into what they want it to be, which is this.
They're creating the narrative that we're violent people, and they're trying to keep the narrative out there that we're violent people, and that is not what's happening. Please do pay attention to what's being posted, and that's why the blackout also is not a good idea, because it's showing what's really going on, where the media is going to portray it a different way. You know how the media is. So definitely reconsider the blackout situation, because it is hiding a lot of information that we do need to see. My shirt is from Black Tin Shop, Black owned, okay? Shout out to them. All right, so Kevin, go ahead.
All right, so how I've been feeling, this is to me, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger towards the situation at hand, because I feel like the push or the marching or the pushing or the politicians need to speak up and continue to speak up to make one thing clear. Those 4 officers that are involved in the killing of that brother should be in prison. They shouldn't have to be going through this whole length to get something that was clearly wrong. It was videotaped to push down a 3rd-degree murder.
And they tried to push the narrative that his underlying conditions made it so that he passed away, because he couldn't handle having someone on his neck for 9 minutes. Who pushes that narrative out there? Who does that?
They do that to justify what
you
happened.
Couldn't handle being pretty much... I'm so sorry, you guys. And this is probably going up unedited. Wolf, please. I don't want to edit.
Yeah, I think that's where it needs to stay. The focus of the movement, the focus of the protests needs to stay locked.
We're looking for convictions, okay? We're not looking for charges. Charges get dropped, and all the time we've had arrests, and they've all, been dropped. Everything's happened. Look at George Zimmerman out there. He'd be acting a fool even after. And so we want convictions. We want these people to serve time for what they do.
And don't remember, we just had a situation with the brother that killed Ahmaud Arbery. Broad daylight, videotapes, and these people walk around free for 2 months, Yes. And the only reason why they were placed in handcuffs is the outrage, and the video was circulated, And then right after that,
without your voices, that wouldn't have happened. So that is why it's important not to go silent. That's why we need everyone's voices to be uplifted. I want our voices to be heard because George Floyd no longer has his voice. Ahmaud no longer has his voice. Tamir no longer has his voice. Breonna no longer has her voice. Sandra Bland no longer has her voice. So we need to use our voices for the people that have lost theirs. And this is no longer a time to be silent for them. This is a time to speak out for them, because best believe if it was my family, you would not stop hearing from me. Trust and believe that. I would never stop talking about what is going on and the social justices that are going on if something happened to my family. So I would encourage you guys to treat them as if they were your family members and keep on speaking out against these injustices and all these losses that we keep getting. Remember, we're only 13% of the population, 13% that can be taken away at any given moment, at any given time, without any reason. So I just want to encourage you guys to understand that. Keep the algorithm how it should be done. We need to have our voices heard.
Yeah, so I think that should be the focal point, and not allow outside forces to hijack the protest. Because right now they're hijacking the protest and making it about their narrative. And people are posting them online saying, hey, what are you guys giving people bricks for? What are these? There's no construction site in anywhere. And it's sad to see there are outside people coming in these towns and starting mess and going off about their business. So when everything burns to the ground, they're sitting at their house all comfortable.
And I'm asking the ancestors to protect all that are out there on the front lines right now, and the ones that are still dealing with COVID, because that's still a thing. And I want everyone out there to be safe, and I hope that no one gets sick. Love you. We're with you, and we're sending you lots of love and protection at this moment in time. So.
Hello, everybody. So she asked me to discuss the two situations that happened with me. We were still in California at the time, and I had one situation where it was, me and her, we had a little timeout period, and I would go to a park that we'd always normally go. It's called East Street in San Diego, and it's called East Street in San Diego. So there was one night I was like, I need to take a breather. So I ended up driving down there. That was after hours. The park closes at 10 officially. So I just stayed parked on the outside of the park. And I usually just sit in my car and I would call somebody to talk and vent, things like that. But this time around, I don't think I did that. I was just sitting in my car, just trying to collect my thoughts. And then I had a cop roll up behind me. And then he went through all my stuff. He was like, what are you doing here? Blah, blah, blah. And the park's closed. I'm like, well, I'm out here. I'm on the outside of the park on public property at this point. Because I was well aware the park had closed. They had gated it up and everything. So I just found that it was more of an excuse, a reason to come and approach. And I said, hey, this is my time. If I'm going through certain things right now, I'm just using it as time to have downtime. But it was more or less the questioning of what's going on, why are you sitting in the car, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, why are you interrogating me? I'm sitting in my own car, And it was one of those things where it was uncalled for. And even when I pulled up on my paperwork, he was still like, you still shouldn't be out here this time of night. So it was just, he let me roll out, but I still had a sense of uneasiness, And then the second situation happened, I'm trying to think. Second situation happened, I was still active duty. I was working late nights, and I used to come home close to midnight.
Oh, that was urgent care?
Urgent care, yep. I was working urgent care at the main hospital, and I would always think, especially with the cops, things like that, being active duty and veteran, things like that, I'm like, okay, that's hopefully my saving grace. It's really not necessarily your saving grace, because at the end of the day, your color doesn't change. And how they perceive you is, you have to know good if you're out here certain hours while you're here. Automatically, you're criminalized. I had a cop pull me over that night, or midnight, and I'm like, hey, I'm just coming from work. I'm in the military. I work at the hospital. And I was like, why did you pull me over? what's going on? What is the problem? I wasn't breaking any laws. I wasn't speeding or anything like that. And he came up with some excuse. Well, your tail light is not, your light on your license plate is not illuminating, and it's against the law. Your license. I'm like, what? I've never heard of that before. And I've taken a driving test, of course, and I've never read in any manual when your light doesn't illuminate. He was looking for a reason to pull me over, to see why I'm in this neighborhood. And I've lived in that neighborhood at that time for like a good 5-6 years at that point. So it's very an uneasy feeling. I mean, we've had times when we even in San Diego, we were delivering for Amazon.
Oh, that one time I recorded it.
Yeah, she recorded it, and it was and I was like, you guys are scared of us, and we're the ones.
We're the scared ones. We're unarmed.
We don't have any weapons.
We're unarmed. We're in the car. It was him and I.
Yeah.
And they pulled us over. What was that reason?
You know what? I don't even think he had a reason.
I don't know what the reasoning was.
They
were questioning us why we were in this neighborhood. They were questioning us a lot of things why we were in that neighborhood, as if we couldn't be in that neighborhood or as if we couldn't own property in that neighborhood. I mean, in reality, we couldn't. It was, I believe we were in a really
we've been in those neighborhoods.
We've been in those.
With delivering with Amazon, we ended up going in affluent neighborhoods that we never knew existed. And in San Diego.
But they kind of just pulled us over, and I don't recall them having any reason. And I was vlogging in the car at that moment, and had caught like the guy coming up on us, because they were coming. There was two of them coming up on either side of us, and I was getting nervous, like letting us go, because there wasn't really any reason for us to
justification of why.
But
he
ended up touching something on him that made me feel like he was about to get his gun. And I was getting nervous. Like, I was like, what the hell? Because why is he grabbing stuff? As he was walking up, like he was grabbing on himself.
Well, he was actually posturing. I can tell he was, just the maneuvers he was making, he was posturing himself, like preparing himself for anything. And he looked like he was... He doesn't look like a regular patrolman. He looked like they were sheriffs.
Yeah, they were.
Because he seemed very nervous.
Yeah, he was.
The way he was talking to me, and I was just like, dude, you the ones with the guns.
We got boxes.
We have boxes of stuff to deliver to people's homes. And you're the one with the gun. I'm the one that should be worried.
Yeah.
My wife's in the car. I'm in the car, and we're delivering merchandise.
And we are my family is out there, but we're their parents. So if something happens to both of us at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But
and you have kids at home and things like that. And, so it's always it's always a situation where
it's an uneasy feeling when you're dealing with the police, because there's no right answer when you're black. Like, there's no right answer. You can be like, oh, I have this, that, and let me grab it. And they're like, what are you grabbing? You told me to get my license and registration. So am I supposed to do it with no hands? You want me to grab it with my feet? What do you want me to do?
Well, I've seen videos about that when people get shot. So when you see these images flash across the screen, and then you're getting pulled over yourself, and their thing is, is that you don't come off like you're aggressive towards them, or you might and make them feel uneasy. Because if you give them a probable cause to... You
don't need a probable cause. They don't have probable cause.
And jump with it and to say, hey, you threatened me. But I've seen that.
I saw George Floyd, and he was walking with them.
Yeah.
He was walking with them. I saw the surveillance, and he was walking with them. So it was really unnecessary for that to happen. And he was already handcuffed. Even if he was wilding, he was in handcuffs already. So... No, I don't want to push the narrative that, if you're not aggressive, if you're not this or that, because that's not true. That's a false narrative.
I know that's a false narrative, but I'm just saying, I've seen it where they'll justify why, they'll justify why they do things. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because I've had, at the end of the day, you want to be safe, you want to make it home to your family. It was crazy because at one point in time, I wanted to be a police officer.
He did. I bought him the books and everything.
I wanted to be a cop. And then I was seeing, even back when I was a kid, I would see a lot of people of color, mainly men, and young boys getting that had my complexion getting tossed in the back of the truck, beat up, tossed in prison, you know what I mean, automatically criminalized. And I told him, I said to myself, even as I got older, I was watching these things transpire, and I said, I don't want to be part of that. I made a conscious decision to say, listen, I'm not going to go and be a part of that. You know what I mean? And participate in that mess and be the one, okay, you know, I'm trying to change the system. I'm trying to get in there and go from the inside out. I've seen many of our people do that. I've read their stories. We had a guy that, a situation that jumped off a few years ago with the Chris Darner situation.
Yeah.
And I was still active. I was still in the reserves and wore my uniform. And I was in the area. We actually lived in the area that he was hiding. Mm-hmm. And it was a tense moment trying to come home every day, wondering if you're going to be pulled over and they're going to use excessive force and you thinking you're that guy. You know? And they ended up killing him.
They did.
Outright killing him. They didn't want him to live. And he was a police officer. Actually, he was in the military, and he was also a police officer. You know? And
either way, we wouldn't have a chance.
American men were being pulled over, harassed, and they were like, you know, you fit the description. You look like this, blah blah blah. And I got that mess when I came in from I came from a military training, came back to San Diego, when I had a FBI or the military version of an FBI agent come to my home.
What is that, NCIS?
He was NCIS, which is the FBI. It's the Navy's version of FBI agent, their own FBI force. And he said the reason being was there was a string of rapes that went on during the time that I was in Corps school, and then I was in a military training academy, and it was run by an African American male, supposedly fitting my description as well as other African men at that particular time. And he was like, well, we're gonna do a DNA swab on you, and if nothing comes back, you won't hear from us. And I was just like, what? Seriously?
And he showed up at the house.
He came to her house first, then he came to my job, my place of work. And at this particular time, I was in the Navy Reserves. I was working at my federal job. I had a security clearance, and to work in those facilities, you have a security clearance. And something like that, someone comes to your job, then your bosses and things like that start raising flags, like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
When we do a security check on you, we're trusting with information, people's personal information. We're doing a background check on you, and you have something like this coming to my job. And I told the guy, I said, nah. I talked to them. I briefly, I said, don't come to my job. I'll come to the park, and we can do this, because I don't want this at my job. This is my livelihood. This is where I support my family. So he agreed. But it was a scary thing, because when it came to showed up my wife, and she's like, what the hell? And then she's coming to me, questioning me, like, yo, what's going on? Why you were in Chicago for almost a year? You know what I mean? And I was like, I have no idea. But this guy showed up.
I wanted to know, like, did he know anything about this going on? Because I was just like, because I'm like, what is this? What happened? Did you know this was happening there? Like, do you know what the person looked like? And I had a bunch of questions, because it's just weird for somebody to show up to your house and be like, yo, your husband is a suspect, a possible suspect, and da-da-da-da, and telling me. And I'm like, wow, he just divulged so much information. And I was, just like, I need to find your husband. And I was like, this sounds kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So,
you're thinking yourself, now hindsight's 20/20, you think yourself, you're lawyer up, then you look guilty. You know what I mean? And I was just one of those people, like, listen, I have nothing to hide. I didn't even know this was going on. I was more concerned with trying to get through school to get back to my family than anything else. But it shows that you are labeled and penalized. There's a crap ton of African, I won't say a crap ton, but there's a large portion of African American community in the part of Chicago I was at. And he focused on the fact that, hey, they said it had to have been a military guy, possibly because we're always transiting. You know what I mean? you
So
stay
I
somewhere for a
imagine how
little.
many people they were contacting
Yeah,
and showing up at their house at this
exactly,
point,
exactly.
years
'Cause
after the
yeah,
situation
exactly.
happened. So yeah, how many families were probably like disrupted at this point, and people were probably looking at their spouses sideways, like what is
What's
going
going on?
on?
Yeah.
And so it's just crazy, and you're guilty
It's
until
crazy.
proven
Yeah,
innocent.
yeah.
And sometimes they don't even prove our people innocent, they just keep us guilty, and somebody has to fight for us, like
Hmm.
Kim Kardashian, to get us out of the situations that we shouldn't have been in the first place. And like, you can have all the evidence in front of you that points to someone else, shows that someone else did it, as black and white, that other person was there and they did it, but they're like, nope, he did it, he's guilty. No. So honestly and truthfully, like, this
It's very. I mean, watching that on TV and things like that. A lot of things that you have an uneasy situation with the police force. Even when it has been several times recently, I got pulled over and
two
the car
times in
was
a
driving.
row.
I always replay in my mind what I go through the steps, how fast I was going. Was there a stop sign? Was there a stoplight? That I passed through it? That I failed to turn? Because I'm looking at these things. I always do the checks.
Mm-hmm.
I make sure where's my license at? Where's my registration at? All those things, I go through my little checks in my
He
mind.
really does go through it, because I've been with them a couple times.
And I'm just automatically jumping at those factors. But I was nervous.
Mm-hmm.
My voice was trembling, things like that. Because, I'm just like, it's late at night. I just got done with doing a delivery. I get pulled over on my way home. And I'm just like, multiple things going through my mind.
And you don't know. Like,
You
really don't
what
know
you're going to deal with.
And that's sad that you have to be on edge when you're just getting pulled over for something that should be routine, and you get a ticket for it. Could be like the end of your life.
Yeah.
So that stuff is really horrible things, situations that you shouldn't be feeling like that, or having panic and anxiety for people that are supposed to be protecting and serving the community. Technically, they work for us, yet we're scared of them, and they're scared of us. And it doesn't make sense to work in a community where you're scared. You know what I mean? I feel like I said in my Insta stories a long time ago, I saved it in my highlights, like, they need to do community training, like work within the community before they're even allowed to police the beat that they're going to. They need to be able to be in those communities and work alongside people and build up relationships before
rapport with the people.
Before you can get a gun, before you can get a taser, before you can get anything. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to work on, is building up a relationship with the people of the community that you are supposed to be protecting and serving. Because it doesn't make sense for you to go somewhere where you're scared to be and try to protect somebody that you're afraid of. Like, how does that make sense? So, I don't know. I would try not to get angry, but I'm an angry person, so.
Well, watching it doesn't help you. Seeing these things back to back on the media, and I had to take a break. I didn't tell my brother I had to take a break watching that. It's traumatic.
It is.
And then watching what happened the other day, I was doing a delivery, and I got trapped in the midst of they starting the protest where I was at.
It was peaceful when he showed me. It was peaceful when he showed it to me. He told me later on, he was like, something happened, like something changed.
I made a beeline back.
But he sounded like he was scared, because he was like, he was breaking up when he kept calling me on Duo. And I'm like, I can't hear you. Just come home. And he ended up texting my daughter, and he was like, tell your mom I'm trapped down here. And I was like, what is going on? Like, you don't know what's going to happen, because you're just in the middle of it. And if the police or the SWAT team or whatever make their move, then you're in the middle of it, and you're an innocent bystander, and anything can happen when you're not even the aggressor.
I mean, it was crazy, because everything was peaceful, and then when I saw on the line that things got out of hand, I went back. I had completely left the neighborhood. I had did my delivery, and I came back. And I said, well, let me see, what are they talking about? Then I'm at the gas station, and I see this SWAT team, black SWAT vehicle with about 6 armed SWAT team members hanging out, driving up the street. And automatically, with my military training, I look at it, and I'm like, this is, they're about to unleash this on civilian population. And then I see also they had Humvees that had the sonic booms. If you ever watched the movie Hulk, on top of the Humvee, they have these sonic pulsators they can use on the population, can blow out your eardrums. And I was just like, wow, all this stuff I saw, the way the posture, everything else was what I was trained to see and watch out for. And it was scary to me because I kept telling her. She was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, I was down there walking, and I was like, I got another delivery to do, so I can't spend all this time down here. But as I was walking, I saw a lot of young kids there,
Yeah.
and that's what came to mind when I saw the SWAT. I was like, you at least hold the hell on a bunch of teenagers and college kids, most of them that I saw walking out there, and they don't know what they're getting themselves into. Me being in the military, I saw this. I knew it was about to go down. And I was just like, I can't believe this. It shouldn't even have to escalate to that point.
It looks like wars down there with more than half of the people without any kind of weapons.
It was signs. It was people's signs. And even when I was down there and I made that beeline, and I was like, you know what? Okay, it's time for me to go. This is the second time I went down there. And I saw how all the streets had cop cars that were blocking off, basically controlling your route.
Yeah.
They make sure you can turn down certain streets.
Making
and
a barricade.
They were barricading, using police patrol vehicles to barricade the areas.
Yeah.
And that's a tactic you use to box something. They want to box you in. And I was like, wait a minute, this is crazy. And then I saw online that they actually did just that. They boxed in the protesters and then advanced on them.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did it go left? And that's where I feel like there's people, outside forces that have come in and disrupting. Because the community that we saw don't act like that. So all you need is one person in the crowd throw a brick or something at a cop, and they unleash.
And they don't look who did it. They don't see who did it. They just are like, this happened, and we're gonna do what we gotta do. And it's never anything that's just like very like small or something like that. They go in full force off of something like one person does. And they want to take out a whole bunch of people with signs chanting. Okay, so that was just a few of the stories, and I just wanted to bring light to the situation. But I hope you guys are safe out there, and we love you. My phone's gonna die, so we'll see you later. Bye.